You're tuning in to two former NFL scouts, Vitale and Kelly, covering the NFL and college football like nobody else. Vitale, a four-time Super Bowl winner, who worked for 6 NFL teams and held executive roles with 3 of them, the Patriots, Falcons, and Cowboys. And Kelly, a former pro scout with the New York Jets and current scouting director at FirstRoundMock.com. You've listened to the rest. Now it's time to hear from these two.
Hello, Lionel. How are you doing today?
Excellent, Dan the man. Let's do this, man. Let's do it.
Hey, let's do it. Before we do, though, it's a very special episode, Lionel. It's our 20th show, and I remember what you told me. Only 1% of people who try to do a podcast reach 20 episodes. Do you remember telling me that?
Yeah, I sure did. Did the research. They said if you get to 20, the chances of being successful is pretty much right there, right in line, man. So this is number 20. Let's go, Dan. Let's go.
Hey, I tell you, let's go. Nice work, Lionel. Nice work indeed. And today is kind of an interesting show because this kind of capsulizes, kind of that mentor-student relationship we have, friendship we have between us, because this topic, the Colts and their quarterback situation, mainly Anthony Richardson, is something that we don't see eye to eye on, Lionel. It's kind of interesting.
You've always had a bad taste in your mouth for Anthony Richardson, man. Since the kid came out of college, man, Florida, you just never could warm up to him. I don't get it. So let's talk about it. What do you think? Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's set the stage here. I mean, they have named Richardson as a starting quarterback for the Colts this season when they coming up against the Texans here. And of course, this is the second straight season Anthony Richardson will be the youngest starting quarterback in the NFL. Kind of a backdrop to the situation. Of course, the Colts signed veteran backup journeyman Joe Flacco during this offseason. Of course, last year Flacco came in late to Cleveland. He led the Browns to the playoffs. They lost that playoff game against the Texans. Of course, Flacco's been around a long time, 39 years old. Then they got the youngster, like I mentioned, Richardson, 22. Last year, the backup when Richardson got hurt was Gardner Minshew, but no real need to talk about him because he's gone. He's out with the Raiders right now. And so let's start with this, okay? The decision's been made. You've been in the NFL for a long time, previous to us, getting together doing this show. The decision of Anthony Richardson starting. Now, I don't agree with them to starting him, but what do you think about the decision?
I think it's a great decision. I mean, Anthony Richardson is your future. Joe Flacco, Danny. Joe Flacco is a vet. He comes in there. He gets you out of games. He could win a game or two for you. But if you have to play him for a long stretch, you're limiting your football team. It's just too hard to protect with these great pass rushers today to protect for Joe Flacco. I mean, he's a tree back there. He's so limited, but he's got a great arm. So if you block it up for him, he's a good football player. He can still throw the rock.
And that's the interesting part. That's right there why I think the Colts should be starting Richardson this year, because this is about winning football games for the Colts and their fan base. And I do agree with you, Lionel. I mean, about his passing. And I think Flacco is a better passer, better ball placement. And I think that Richardson could use some more time, frankly. The heel, that shoulder he had operated on last year. I mean, it was so bad during minicamp. He was throwing passes at one point left-handed. And the one thing, when I went back and watched all the Colts preseason games on tape on NFL.com, Richardson looked rusty. I couldn't help but notice he looked a little bit slower. He looked rusty. I mean, do you believe, because I have question marks, do you believe the Colts are rushing Anthony Richardson back too fast after he was hurt 3 out of 4 games last year? Does he need more time to heal in your mind, or you think he's ready to go?
No, Dan, he's a youngster, man. Those young kids, young guys, they heal fast. And, they drafted this guy number 1 for a reason, not to set him on a bench. They don't do that anymore in the NFL. Once at a time, you draft a guy in the first round, you set him for 3 years, and you let some veteran just kind of stumble around for 2, 3 years, and you bring him on. No, they're paying these guys a lot of money. His contract's going to be up in 4 or 5 years. They're going to be looking to do a new deal. You want to set him down for 2 years, Danny? You just don't do that. You picked him, put him out there, let him play.
Well, I'm just concerned about that throwing shoulder more than anything. I mean, if he goes out there, let's say hypothetically, Lionel, they put him out there and he gets seriously hurt again within the first month of the season, what's going to happen to his confidence?
Well, then you got to go with the hand that's dealt. If he gets hurt after a couple, 3 games, that's why you have Joe Flacco. Okay, you can't sit there and worry about injuries. It's just like anything in life. If I had to walk out of my house every day and worry about a truck hitting me or getting caught on the track with a train coming, you can't live like that, Dan. You got to go, man. Quit. What if? What if? What if? Anything can happen in life, but you got to go with what you feel.
But if a car just hit you last week, you might think twice. I tell you what, this is great. This is great how you and I go back and forth. It's like people are listening into our phone conversations. It's awesome. I mean, I've looked at the Colts schedule. I know you have, Lionel. I'm going to go first here. I don't know if it really makes that big of a difference who they start, to be honest, because I see this as a 6-win team this season regardless. Have you taken a look at their schedule too, Lionel? Do you have a number of wins kind of underlined?
Yeah, I see the Colts. Danny, as a 6 to 8 win season. The floor being 6, the ceiling being 8. But you never know. Now, with a young quarterback in there, you can't depend on them to win a lot of games. They know that. But you got to build somewhere, Dan. I'm thinking 6 to 8 games. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to see, and I really want to go on record here and say I don't think either of these guys is the answer for the Indianapolis Colts going forward in 2025. I know your team, Richardson. I like you said at the top of the show, I can't warm up to this guy. Of course, last year Flacco came in. He was 4-2 as a starter. He threw for over 300 yards on 5 out of 6 games for the Browns. Richardson has never thrown for 300 yards in an NFL game. Of course, he only played in, 4 last year, but he only had 2 300-yard games in college even. And so I just see Flacco as being more of the prolific type of passer. I don't know. Let's unpack the evaluations. Now, how do you see, I'll let you go first on this, when you've evaluated Anthony Richardson at Florida and when you've seen him at the Colts, if you could give us kind of your elevator evaluation, Lionel.
Anthony Richardson, great athlete, really good athlete, moves around well, big rocket arm, can throw the ball all over the field, can make all the throws from all those different slots. He was a guy who could probably throw a ball 75 yards. So you're banking on that with him. Now, when things are rolling for him, you say, wow, that's big time. You're looking at Pro Bowl potential. It's an all or nothing type of player. He can hit it big or it's not going to work out. But there will be no middle ground for Anthony Richardson. I agree with that. But man, all the good things are there. You just gotta let it mature, let it happen.
Well, it's interesting because the things you're talking about are the things I saw too at Florida. I mean, the size, the raw arm strength. I mean, he hit the ceiling at the gym during his pro day. That was his claim to fame. And he throws, pretty well in the short throwing range. But I've just never been able to get into the hype because, I mean, to me, he's a run-first, glorified option quarterback who completed 53.8% of his passes his final season at Florida. I had a 5th-round grade on him pre-draft, and the negatives I see are just insurmountable when I look at this guy. I mean, I see unfixable throwing mechanics. He tends to throw the ball from a narrower throwing base. Sometimes he tenses up even a little bit more, which causes the ball to sail a little bit high. In this preseason, I even noticed he was kind of torquing his body when he threw. Bottom line, he tries to aim and steer the ball too much and not an equally distributed follow-through, which causes him to be erratic, equals the ball placement to be overrode, an inconsistent passer. And it's been confirmed, Lionel, and to our listeners, by his completion percentage. I mean, this is a guy who has never completed more than 60% in a full body of work, not in high school, not in college, not in the NFL. And to me, it's like this is a passing league. I mean, only 4 out of 50 quarterbacks last year, ranked by ESPN, were under 60%. He was at 59.5. What's your reaction to that? What gives you hope, Lionel, that he's going to be able to put this together for the Colts? I'm interested in your perspective.
Yeah, I just think that he's a guy that you got to give the time to, Dan. A guy played in college. He threw in the 50%, 50% ratings,
53.8,
whatever.
yeah. Yeah.
All right, 53.8, low 50%. But let him develop. You just can't give up on a guy after 1 or 2 years in college. You let him come. And we used to talk about that all the time when we scouted guys together. You can't be impatient. Scouting is kind of being able to project. I mean, you got to project Anthony Richardson becoming a really nice quarterback because he's got the arm strength, he's got the athletic ability. There is some footage on tape where he shows you, boy, he can make all these throws. Well, you've got to coach him too, Danny. You got to coach the young man. Give him a chance. Give him a year or two, and let's see. But I think the glass is full with Anthony Richardson. I like what the coach is doing there, and they can hit with Anthony Richardson.
Interesting. Yeah, I do have concerns with his ability to read defenses. I talked about that pre-draft even when I was on Fox Sports Radio. And also he's just as fragile to me as a dinner plate. I mean, with those injuries, it's a huge concern of mine. But we've talked a lot about Anthony Richardson's. Let's flip the script here and talk for a couple minutes about Joe Flacco. I mean, a lot of fans have seen him over the years. We can talk about him. This guy is an experienced seasoned pro going to 17th season, 43,936 yards, throwing 245 touchdowns, 155 interceptions. I mean, he has a big resume. Throws an easy ball to catch, short to intermediate, decent arm strength, decent placement, decent consistency, and sometimes he can surprise you still with a deeper pass. The negatives, of course, last year we saw the big negatives with the 2 pick sixes he threw, some bad decisions there against Houston, and that loss. He's one-dimensional, not explosive, not exciting. Movements are slower. But to me, he just seems to be an efficient game manager. Going back to the top of our conversation, how do you see? I mean, I know you touched on what you saw of Joe Flacco, but is there anything else you want to add to your evaluation on Flacco?
It's just so hard to block for Joe Flacco. He can't move. He's a tree. He stands in one spot. He's stationary. That puts too much stress on the offensive line. With these great pass rushes in the NFL coming at you from inside up the gut and coming off the edges, it's just too hard to hold up against those guys. And if you're just a big, stiff, straight line quarterback, it puts too much pressure on your offense. Now, if Joe gets his back foot in the ground and he sees a target, he can still hit you. But the problem is that's rare in the NFL where you get a chance to put your foot in the ground. Guys are on your lap. Guys are at your feet. You've got to maneuver left or right just to avoid the rush. And I don't see Joe doing that, man. He limits the offense. Joe Flacco is a guy you bring into the game. You bring in there for 1 or 2 games. If you got to play Joe for 5 to 8 games, good luck, my man. Good luck.
We have a little bit over a minute remaining. I've talked about and stated I see this as a 6-win, team this year. You said it's between 6, maybe 8, somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah, I agree. I
Right.
see 6 to 8 wins.
6, 8 wins. So let me ask you this: how long in closing, do the Colts, if they keep Richardson there? Let's say he stays healthy and go with that scenario for a moment. How long do they? I mean, if it's a 4 or 5 wins, they're 5-9, they're 5-10, they're closing out. I mean, how long do they keep on with this until they just set him down? I mean, would they put him on the bench for any reason outside of injury? And if they did, would it be stunting his growth in your mind?
Dan, in the NFL, they normally give quarterbacks, I don't care where they pick him, they're going to give you 2 years. You're going to get 2 full years to show what you can do. Year 3, they're going to bring in some competition. And if the competition's better, they're going to go with the competition. So you got 2 years to mature, start to grow, or you're going to start losing your job. And next thing you know, you're out of that place. You're out of that franchise, away from that franchise. They can't wait 3 years anymore. There's just too much invested.
No question. Real quickly, is there any way possible the Colts are a playoff team this season? I say no. What do you say?
Honestly, I don't see it unless Anthony Richardson can pull something out of his pants. Okay. Other than that, I don't see it. Joe Flacco can't get him there. I don't see it because you don't have the same roster. You don't have the same roster that you had in Cleveland last year. Cleveland has a better roster than Indianapolis. So if you got a great roster, then they could kind of pull you across the line. But I don't see that type of roster in Indianapolis.
Hey, good stuff as always, Lionel. Talking about the Colts, Anthony Richardson, and Joe Flacco today. Please like and share the show and tell your friends at the office about us. And join us for our next show, Lionel. This one's going to be a good one. Talking about the Colorado Buffaloes and their head coach, Deion Sanders, and his son, the quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. Nobody wants to miss that one, right?
Got that right. Let's do it.
That's for sure. Thanks for watching and listening, everybody.
Thank you for joining us for the latest episode of two former NFL scouts, Vitale and Kelly. No nonsense, uncensored, hard-hitting football analysis. Weekdays